Okay, we're going to finish up our virtual tour here in our laboratory. Just a quick overview of what we do here, what type of testing we do. I like to break it down into three categories: process control, compliance, and industrial. Process control, we have to do various tests to make sure that the treatment process that we just looked at is functioning correctly. So a lot of that work is solids. Make sure we have the right amount of solids, we're in the correct balance and all. So we do a lot of solids testing for process control. I mentioned how important sludge settleability is. We do sludge settleability testing to make sure that that sludge blanket settles properly. We can do microscope work where we can look at the different bacteria, not necessarily bacteria, but the protozoan that we look to determine sludge age and overall quality of our biology and our process. And also things like pH, I mentioned fecal coliform testing, all that is done here. Now the fecal coliform testing, that would fall more into the compliance testing program. We have a permit that's issued by the state called an NPDES program, and in that program we have certain limits that we have to meet as far as effluent quality. So that would be compliance testing. Again, there's a lot of solids testing, and that's BOD testing, biochemical oxygen demand. So we have limits for those two parameters, also for pH, dissolved oxygen, fecal coliform. This is where we do a lot of our our nutrient testing, both for nitrogen and phosphorus. Some work is sent out as well, both to verify our own numbers and for some other compliance work. Some of the testing is sent out. We don't have the capability in-house to do everything. And so that's process control and compliance testing. For compliance testing, all that data is compiled and submitted in a monthly report to the state DEP. All that is now submitted electronically. And the last is the industrial testing. The plant that we just toured is designed to treat domestic sewage. It can take some industrial wastewater for treatment, but it has to meet certain requirements. One of the big things is toxicity. In our case, toxicity from heavy metals, things like cadmium, chromium, lead, nickel, zinc. We have limits, which are called local limits, that we develop here at the treatment plant for those parameters. And we do that because they're tailored specifically to our treatment process. So what we're doing is we're looking to protect the biology of the process. We're looking to protect or maintain the sludge quality so it doesn't become contaminated with, say, some sort of heavy metal. And we also want to prevent anything that's what's called pass-through. Pass-through, an example of that would be as if we received a load or some sort of slug load of, let's say, copper maybe, that it would be to overwhelm our system, and actually part of it would go out in our effluent. And our concern with pass-through there is the biology in the river, that we do not want to disturb any or create any problems with toxicity in the Susquehanna River. So when we do local limits, which we do periodically, we're required to check those limits to see if there's still a reasonable limit. If anything has changed, that we may have to adjust the limit up or down. We do that periodically, typically every 5 years. So that's the industrial end of things. And as far as the industrial pretreatment program, that's my main function down here, is to manage that pretreatment program. So we permit industries. We have industries that are connected to our system. Some of them have the ability to discharge toxic materials like heavy metals. Those usually fall on the shoulders of metal finishing type industries. We have several large metal finishing industries that do powder coating operations. The issue there is the treatment that they do before the powder coating. The powder coating itself does not go into the sewer, but the cleaning process materials, they do get discharged. In addition to different types of electroplating operations, where they're using large tanks and they dip metal materials in there to apply coatings. Typically chromium, nickel, we have zinc platers. So all of those types of operations have a really high potential if things were to go wrong, or if they weren't in some sort of regulated, controlled in a regulated fashion, that they can release high levels of toxic materials that would then cause problems down here at the plant like they described. So we permit them, and they have limits that they have to meet. And we go out minimum once a year to all these, what's called a significant industrial user. We go out to those facilities and we inspect and we sample. And also part of their permit condition is that they have to do what's called self-monitoring. So just as down here at the plant, we do self-monitoring to make sure that we meet our permit requirements. These large significant industrial users are required to do the same thing. And then they report to us their data. Either depending on severity of their the significance that they have to our overall quality of our work here. They may have to report to us as soon as monthly, and some of them report quarterly. And they have, again, permit requirements that they have to meet. So with that, we're going to conclude our tour here at the Wyoming Valley Sanitary Authority. I hope you learned something, and maybe in the future you'll get an opportunity to come down and do a physical tour here down at the treatment plant. Thank you.